Do you struggle to remember the names of all the planets in our solar system in order? Well, this woman can help you with that. Here's how it works.
Hang on. Before we get to that, whether you're learning new technology terms, foreign vocabulary, or theoretical models and concepts, smart memorization techniques can help you commit the new information to memory more quickly.
But is it really necessary to memorize anything anymore, now that we can look up anything, anytime?
Actually, having some critical pieces of knowledge memorized, nestled nicely in your long-term memory, can be very helpful. When you already have some neural links created in long-term memory about a topic, it makes it much easier to add more links. And having those links at the tip of your mental fingertips allows you to think faster and at a higher level.
Barb's got a great point. As we've seen, when you already have some sets of links built into long-term memory, you make things a lot easier for your brain's working memory.
Let's say you're asked to compare and contrast the French and the American revolutions. A higher conceptual level question like that requires that you know a set of seemingly unrelated lower level facts about both revolutions. But memory and understanding are kind of interlinked. It's easier to memorize information when you understand it well, but it's also easier to understand information that you've memorized. So what's the best way then to memorize information? Well, as you know, one of the best ways to create strong sets of links in long-term memory is to use retrieval practice. Instead of simply reading or looking at the information over and over, test yourself on it. Try to retrieve it from your own memory.
Of course, a powerful way to do that is to use flashcards. Simply write down what you need to memorize on one side and the translation or explanation on the other side. Then go through the cards and try to retrieve what's on the other side. Check to see whether you have it right. It's smart to shuffle the cards every now and then and to alternate the direction you read them in. So sometimes you see the back first, sometimes the front. As you improve, you separate the difficult cards from the easier ones. Practice more with those you struggle with. Whether you study with flashcards or use another approach, remember to space out your sessions over several days.
You can also use memory tricks called mnemonics. One trick that can help you memorize a group of words is to see if they can form an acronym. Acronyms are all around us, and they're powerful because they can combine many words into one, kind of like how a rubber band ties together several flowers into a bouquet. To form an acronym, you'll have to play around with the order of the words to find the most memorable combination.
If that doesn't work, you can use a related technique, forming a sentence in which each word corresponds to a word on your list. The sentence, "My very elderly mother just served us noodles," remember her? Could represent the planets in order: Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. Another technique you can use is to form an image. Actually, some 50% of the neocortex is devoted to processing visual information, meaning you have a super memory for images. In one study that demonstrated this, participants were shown 2,560 images. A few days later, they remembered 90% of the images they had seen. So when you are trying to remember a fact or a word, try to come up with a mental image for it. This is similar to the association technique we mentioned in the last video. If you want to remember that the moon landing happened in 1969, you can try to come up with an image of a moon looking like the number 69. Or to remember that the South Pole was reached in 1911, you can make a mental image of a person skiing down two poles.
Ha! That's me at the South Pole 70 years later. But that's a whole nother story. Actually, image-based memory techniques are what memory champions use to memorize an entire deck of cards in less than 20 seconds. The most well-known of these techniques is the memory palace. To use the memory palace, you just come up with an image for every word or phrase you want to remember, and then place those images in a building that you're familiar with. That's where the name Memory Palace comes from.
Let's say you want to memorize the first 5 elements of the periodic table: hydrogen, helium, lithium, beryllium, and boron. First, you come up with an image for each of the 5 elements. We'll use these images: a fire hydrant, a helium balloon, a battery, a strawberry, and a boar. Some images are chosen because they're typically associated with the elements, such as a battery for lithium. Other images are chosen because the sound of the object leaves a helpful clue, such as strawberry for beryllium. Next, you find a location that you're familiar with. Let's choose our home. We'll make a route through the rooms, stopping at the entrance door, the hallway, the kitchen, living room, and bedroom. Finally, walk through your palace and envision the images along the way. The fire hydrant in front of the entrance door, the balloon in the hallway, the battery in the kitchen, strawberries in the living room, and the boar in the bedroom. The memory palace techniques work so well because it glues new information to locations that are already in your long-term memory. Speaking of learning new information, how's your Norwegian learning going?
I've memorized a few words.
So would you say that you can speak Norwegian now?
Let's find out in the next video, where we'll introduce systems the brain uses to develop expertise and fluency in languages. In the meantime, head on over to the discussion forum and share some of your ideas about how to remember more effectively, and pick up some tips from your new friends in our course. I'm Barb Oakley.
And I'm Olav Schewe. Thank you for learning to learn like a pro.